Good day, world. Welcome to Be in the Moment. Today, I am thrilled to be with someone I consider a wonderful friend and a leader in the world, Jackson Laskey.
Wow, that's a lot to live up to. I think wonderful friend is maybe a position that I can rise to the occasion there. Leader in the world, we'll see, but uh, let's see what we can make happen.
All right, sounds good. So, Jackson, you have been leading businesses such as DuroDogs and now Asset Layer. And you've been a long time leader there at Unbounded Capital. So we are thrilled to hear from you today about your experience in the industries and also a recent article that you wrote on the Unbounded Capital website blog.
Yeah, I've seen the potential in Bitcoin for over 5 years now. Kind of amazing to have been in the space for this long. I know some people are over a decade already, and hats off to them. But crossing the 5 year mark it's just been interesting to look back on how much time and energy I've poured into this space, and I'm really proud of what we've accomplished so far. And yeah, happy to talk about the article I wrote as a guest contributor to Embedded Capital, and any other questions that you wanna or topics you want to discuss.
Thank you. Well, I met you in person there in Miami at the CoinGeek Bitcade event. So it's wonderful to be in the moment with you again here in the virtual world. So thank you. And my first question is, how do you think music relates to Bitcoin? Because you are a professional pianist, a jazz musician. I believe you studied music. Is that right?
Yeah, so in college I studied jazz piano, and I also got a degree in computer science. Uh, and I'm not sure that they're that related. I know that's a bad answer.
That's fine. What did you
I,
think of the musical score and then computer science?
for me, the the computer science degree was definitely pursued kind of at the behest of my parents. I was all in on becoming a jazz musician without necessarily thinking that much about, what that life would actually be like, or having like a good appreciation for some of the opportunities or lack of opportunities that, or the requirements or lack of opportunities that come up in that profession. So as I explored other avenues, for my life, definitely the computer science degree ended up becoming a lot more relevant than maybe I had anticipated at that point. But I still play the piano almost every day. I haven't played a gig professionally since we had our lockdowns at the beginning of 2020, unfortunately. And music, especially jazz, is an art form that often takes place relatively late at night. And now that I have a team that's somewhat based in Europe, and I have to be up pretty early in the morning, I don't necessarily see myself getting back out to the clubs uh, anytime soon, or at least that often. But yeah, it's a skill that I'm really proud of.
And it must be a joy to do on a daily basis, just even at home.
Yeah, I mean it really is. It's just nice to have that be a space that I can always go to,
Mhm.
regardless of you know what Craig Wright said today that lights the world on fire.
Right, exactly. Tap it out, tap it out. Well, I do love jazz music and I love interacting with artists and musicians and people in general. So we are hosting the open mic inside Castleborn. Castleborn is a virtual world built on the Gather platform, and it is integrated with the BSV blockchain as far as the NFTs that are living and exchanged and sold and viewable there in that world. So I do welcome you to join us on February 2nd. We will meet at 8 p.m. Eastern. And if that's too late, welcome to join us for the British version, which will be at 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern. And if you can just prop up your phone there while you play the piano and share a jam, it would be such a moment. It is a happening. It's not recorded. So it's just there for those folks that interact.
I'll definitely make it at some point. I'll shoot for this February, and 8 p.m. is definitely not too late for me.
Okay.
The kind of gigs I was talking about, I used to have a regular gig on Saturday nights that started at 1:30 a.m. and went to 4:30 a.m.
Wow.
Um, so
Manhattan.
yeah, so those are the types of things that are just no longer very cohesive with the rest of my lifestyle.
I understand. And there up in New York City, I did go to the Vanguard once. I saw the
Beautiful.
Barriers Trio. So have you been there before to see
Oh,
some?
many times. Yeah,
Oh, what a
I
place.
love the Vanguard.
Yes. Well, you live on the Vanguard as well, as we all do in BSV.
Mm.
So you
Hold on,
graduated.
I have to interrupt you to just
Yeah.
appreciate that. That was a 10 out of 10 transition that
Oh,
in my appreciation for it, totally disrupted. But I just want everyone to take a moment and just really digest uh, that pivot.
oh, thank you, my friend. Yes. So I do love a good pivot. It's a lot of fun. So yes, there we are. We're on the vanguard in the world. That's why I say you're a leader in the world, because all of us here in this space are at the leading edge, they say, of the whole information age, realizing it, and with monetization for individuals. So, this can be a really far out topic. I know that a lot of people, maybe in the neighborhood or in our families or folks we went to high school with, they might think, what are they going on about? Who cares? What's that? That's weird. Oh, I don't know. That seems complicated. Or, oh, I don't know. That's really not it. I saw on CNBC or I saw on Fox, I saw on CNN, this or that. And what do they know? So that's why these conversations are so helpful because we can interact, learn, share the news of what you're building with your businesses, and also clue people in. You know, you can lead a horse to water.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting what you said about us being in the vanguard on the cutting edge of the information age, because I definitely see that in a way, but I've also definitely come, I think, to appreciate just having been in this space for 5 years and been building Asset Layer and DuroDogs for 2.5 years now, that the world is very multidimensional. Building a great product is very multidimensional, and so being on the vanguard in one dimension can be a big advantage, but it doesn't mean very much unless you pair that with the other ingredients that go into making something that can actually be successful. And I think that that's part of what I've seen in our space is just, for whatever reason, this cohort of people is very eclectic, doesn't have that many, clear commonalities, has gravitated towards the same energy. And we're all trying to make something happen. But we all still have a lot to learn because I don't think many of us necessarily came in with all the skills where, this Bitcoin thing is like the one missing ingredient where it's just a rocket ship that takes off immediately. You can even see that with Craig himself, who is probably the most on the cutting edge of this particular vanguard, yet struggled in his career to actually make something that was viable as a business. And obviously, he's been incredibly successful just in a lot of dimensions. I don't want to take anything away from him, but I think that it's an important example that just knowing about or understanding Bitcoin, clearly at this point we can conclude that that alone is not enough to be successful. It's not enough to necessarily even kind of spread the message in a tangible way. It's great to have these conversations. I think they're valuable and they're important, which is why I'm really glad you're doing this podcast.
Thank you.
But I want to see Bitcoin put into the hands of people in a more tangible, more experiential way, because I think that that is where the power comes from. The power uh, is not necessarily going to come from educating people about Bitcoin, but from actually putting Bitcoin in their hands and using it to transform their lives on a day-to-day basis as they go through the world, both the physical world and the virtual world. And so, I've just come to really appreciate how big of a task that really is. And I'm striving to be better as an individual and as a company at fulfilling that vision. But I think that we all need to just have the sort of humility that's required to take on that journey, because I think it's really easy to look at how advanced we all are in terms of understanding Bitcoin, understanding what it could do. But how do you actually bring that about? It's a totally different challenge.
Yes, and I've seen you do that with DuroDogs, the game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really, really probably more proud of DuroDogs than almost anything else, if anything else that I've done in my professional life. Um, because we've been very focused on our long-term vision, which really has to do with interoperability. And I think that we talked a little bit before the show started about NFTs. The way I see it, the killer feature of NFTs and the way that they're going to transform the world is via their interoperability. And I think being able to trade things is cool, but what does it really mean to actually own something? This is something that my co-founder Dave talks about that wasn't always clear to me what he meant, but I think it was actually a really profound observation, which is that, in the physical world, when you own a shovel, um, you don't use your shovel for everything,
Mm-hmm.
but anywhere where you can use a shovel, you can take your shovel and you can shovel stuff. I can shovel in my yard, my backyard, front yard. If I'm going over to help a friend garden, I can bring my shovel. I can shovel in their yard. So there's an interoperability to owning things in the physical world where, okay, yes, not everything is supposed to be used everywhere, but you can take your possessions with you and apply them wherever it makes sense to. And in the digital world, we really don't have that. And DuroDogs is sort of our playground to try and figure out how we can make the interoperability that NFTs make possible actually accessible in a way where it's really, really simple for applications to actually take advantage of this, and where it's really seamless and almost not noticeable to the user to the point where they just experience the benefit without having to go through any of the hassle of trying to figure out, all right, what are my new responsibilities as a user? Or what do I have to do? You just play a game, and all of a sudden you're moving across applications, you're bringing your dog's items from app to app across different websites, different infrastructure, sometimes created by different people. Sometimes the actual assets that you're creating were created by different people. The women of BSV created a collection. We've had a few of our players now create collections. And so I think DuroDogs is really more so than any other app on any blockchain. And I've looked at NFT games on every blockchain because
Mm.
there's more to building a great NFT game or NFT ecosystem than just the blockchain that you use. And so there's a lot to learn from other chains. But in this regard, I don't think anyone has really done what we've done at Asset Layer with DuroDogs. And so very, very proud of the direction that that's pointing. And we've done our best just to try and create a product with Asset Layer that allows other creators, developers to not only contribute to a game like DuroDogs, but create their own DuroDogs, whether that's a game that they're creating or some kind of other application where they want these digital assets that their application is using or creating to be useful and usable in other settings, and they want that to be really easy for people to tap into what they've built and collaborate to create something that's much bigger than what you can do as an individual or an individual company.
Ooh, I hear some connections with things I've heard in spaces. Yes, the concept of interoperability. Now, please, Jackson, give us all an example of that shovel. What is the digital shovel that could be taken here, there, and everywhere in the virtual worlds?
Well, my favorite example is your dog, where, in people love their dogs.
Yes.
Dogs are one of the most interoperable pets because you can take your dog out in the world in a way that most people don't with their cat or their rat or whatever else they might have.
Or their turtle, right?
Definitely not the turtle. The turtle's not going to hike a mountain with you most likely, whereas your dog just might. So we saw that as kind of emblematic of the journey that we wanted to go on with the game, and just the idea that like a dog can either be a companion or a hero in its own journey across any type of application or game. There's actually a company that's doing something cool where they have a little pet dog. I think it's a dog, that's like a browser extension that just kind of comes out and it's overlaid onto your browser, and you can like pet it or feed it and then it goes away. Almost like it's Tamagotchi-ish, except for instead of being this little device that goes off, it's a little pet that comes, whatever website you're on, just kind of crawls onto the screen. And I just think that's like a perfect little example.
Yes, I feel like I've seen that before. What is Tamagotchi?
Tamagotchi was like this popular toy in the 90s where it was a little handheld device, and there were a few options to like take care of this pet that was on this device. And what made it, I think, kind of a high stakes and viral game is that if you weren't attentive to your Tamagotchi's needs, it would die.
Okay, yes, the pet game. So the one that you mentioned would be a web browser game, pet game. Now here, let me introduce you to my darling DuroDogs. I have opened it up here, and you can see I'm so grateful. I had updated my hand cache handle, and then now I have my DuroDogs back together again under my new handle. So you can see here Moxie and Reba. They're great. And we can give an example. So here, oh, actually,
Mad Jack?
This is my new dog. Yes. So this is a level 10 dog. This is my brand new dog. So we can put on, I think I'll do the golden tiara, thank you. And maybe some shades. Fancy. Golden dig again shades.
Yeah, and you see these are gifts that people are sending you, it looks like, maybe based on participating in threads on Twitter. And it's just another example of interoperability, which we're gonna do some things soon to make even more tangible.
Yes. So I purchased this from Chrissy.
Okay.
Yes. So Chrissy had this on the go, and I said, I'll buy that. So I used the hand cash. I sent her the BSV, and then she immediately sent me the dog with the items equipped. And one thing that I do love about DuroDogs is that one what was your inspiration? Did-
This was composed by a friend of mine. His name is Nick Laskey, and he actually is now working with us full time as in sales.
Oh, great.
And Nick and I met in college, and he's a great trumpet player and composer. And so he was helping us also. He's a lifelong gamer and just knows a ton about the gaming industry and about how to create a well-balanced game. So we had him help us out with the music for some of our games and helping to design some of the mechanics. And so we also have created a game called Hash War, which it's taken us a really long time to actually build it just because, I don't know, we've just gotten busy with other things that are really critical to our goals as a company. But Hash Wars are really cool. It's a fun game. We have a version that we can play internally. It's not good enough to share with the public yet,
Mm.
but Nick
And
designed
what's
that
the
game as well.
storyline of Hash Wars?
Say that again?
What is the storyline?
The storyline is that you are a black hat hacker and you're in a war with another black hat hacker where you're funding, your hacking operation using cryptocurrency, mining Bitcoin, and you're waging war against this other hacker. It was sort of loosely based on, obviously the hash war, the Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SV hash war was not, hackers attacking each other, but
Right.
it was kind of a form of computer warfare
Yes.
that we thought was a really interesting theme to build a game around. And
Mhm.
so it's a trading card game. And so a lot of the cards in the game kind of reference some of the memetics or like just the themes that have emerged uh, within our space and out of the hash war. Like, for example, there's the famous email where Craig says, we will bankrupt you.
Mm.
And one of the win conditions in the game is if you run out of money, you lose, you go
Mm.
bankrupt. So it's just been a fun theme to build a really different kind of card game around. The game itself has a lot of it's not a lot of the NFT trading card games that have come out, let alone just trading card games in general, are kind of just copying Magic the Gathering, which is by and away, the most successful trading card game ever.
Oh, even more than Pokemon?
Well, I mean, Pokemon as a franchise is the most successful franchise ever,
Hmm.
but I think that actually playing the card game is it's like a pretty small piece of the overall Pokemon puzzle. But yeah,
Hmm.
Pokemon is way bigger than Magic overall. But a lot of that is from like the video games and from the TV show and the movies and the merchandise and all that stuff.
Hmm. Okay. Wow. So I remember the hash war, and I had decided to focus on BSV, and then the hash war happened, and I said, "What? Oh my gosh! Oh, what's going on?" So it was an amazing time. I remember watching, and honestly, I was praying the rosary and I was watching, and I was like, I don't even know, but I was like, please let it all be for the best, you know? And then now we have all these years gone by in a flash, and things are for the best, 110%. We're just building. And so with Asset Layer, this is your business now. And then what are the companies within Asset Layer?
So we're all one company. Um, So we've gone through a few different names. We started as Unbound Enterprise. That didn't end up fitting us. So we went with the
Oh, right.
name Nifty Jigs,
Yes, I remember
which
that.
was a fun name in a lot of ways, but we felt like it also we outgrew it pretty quickly, and it didn't make sense for kind of what our vision was as a company. So it took us a long time to figure out what the name was ultimately going to be. And when we came up with Asset Layer, it was like a light bulb moment. This is perfect. The domain was also available, so that always helps. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then so it's one company. DuroDogs, the game, BSV 2048 is another game we built. Hash4 is a game that we've designed and are in the process of building. The Asset Layer platform, the Nifty Jigs, Game Drop Jigs, all this is just part of one company.
Mm.
It's a separate company from Unbounded Capital, where I was one of the founding partners. I'm actually no longer on the investment committee or on the board of Unbounded Capital. I still help them however I can,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, like for example, like this article that I wrote.
Mm-hmm.
But uh, I had to just be all in on Asset Layer, which is just how I prefer to do things in general.
Yes. And the name Asset Layer is reminiscent of something in the crypto scene they call layer two solutions. So could you distinguish between these two forms?
Um, in a way, Asset Layer is layer two, but not necessarily in the way that other layer twos operate. I mean, layer there's a lot of kind of definitions you can provide to a layer two, so we don't go around calling ourselves a layer two just because it gets confusing. It's not a lot of layer two in the crypto space refers to like a scaling solution. And by scaling solution, typically what this means is instead of scaling, we're just gonna pretend we're scaling and do things with like a private database, and not really use the blockchain very much at all.
Mm-hmm.
We do everything we do with blockchain just happens on layer one. So for us, layer two is more like a um, authentication and a data layer that kind of exists on top of what you get with blockchain, which we think is really important for interoperability. Eventually there are certain things that we're doing off chain that we might be able to do on chain in a cost effective way. But we're a really small team. So we have to just be careful about not biting off more than we can chew.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of what the asset layer is really supposed to represent, and I just used it as the asset layer, which I would differentiate from asset layer, where the asset layer, the way we see it is digital assets can be this connective tissue that weaves together applications into something that's bigger than just one app. This is what we're talking about with application interoperability. And so a user that has digital assets becomes like a bridge between applications. And so we look at this asset layer is this thing that different applications can plug into, and the assets are what connect them. And that's what you see with DuroDogs, where how is the main DuroDogs game, Rough Runner, Bark Battle, other games that are in production, how are these all connected? They're connected through the asset layer, where the actual DuroDogs assets are the thing that glue these games together. And it's a layer by which these games can communicate to one another. And the medium through which they communicate are digital assets that are owned by a particular user who's going from app to app.
Hmm. So is this within the hand cash metaverse or also beyond?
Handcash is the wallet that gives us the features that we need.
Okay.
There's not any other options for us right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not going out there we don't really care if Handcash is the only option because we like working with Handcash. And so for us, for some people, I think they think like a token investor. And so they think about, well, what is interoperability? Interoperability is everything that's using the blockchain or the token that I care about being able to work with one another.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for us, that's not how we look at interoperability.
Mm.
We're focused on, being able to create a really great service that helps applications talk to one another. The degree to which we use other companies, services, or other assets which are on the same blockchain as us is not as relevant to us. We're really focused on, hey, the people using Asset Layer, the people who are our customers, how can we help connect them as well as we can? And I think that is a frame from which we can have a much bigger impact. And the types of things that we've done with DuroDogs, for example, they wouldn't really be possible to do, or at least we don't have a good way of doing it yet, if you don't kind of draw the circle around Asset Layer and around hand cash. So for us, we're just less, we don't look at interoperability as how do you connect everything that's on Bitcoin. We are looking at it as how do you connect applications in general, and how can we be a service that helps make that happen?
Beautiful. So I am hearkening back to jazz music. If you think about a jazz musician's jam, that requires listening and this interoperability where all the players join in and make the band, and then you jam
You should have
together.
answered that question before.
I just thought of it while you were talking.
Okay. Well, I mean, there's definitely interoperability in that setting. And in music in general, like the theme, in an orchestral piece moves from the cellos to the oboes to the violin, so on, so on. I think one of the best examples of interoperability in the world is TikTok.
Yikes.
Which, well, I mean, what TikTok does with their data, I mean, that's its own. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like TikTok is a great.
That's right. Yes.
It's a great example of interoperability because everything on that platform is really geared around interoperability in terms of connecting creators and the content that they're making together to be something that's bigger than it would be individually. Have you ever used TikTok?
No, I've never used TikTok, but I must admit that on the YouTube Shorts panel, I've watched Rockstar, the voiceover of dogs.
Okay.
He's from TikTok. I don't know if you've ever seen him, but he's hilarious.
I believe it. In TikTok, there's a couple of features that really promote interoperability. One of them is they make it really easy to clip other people's videos and create a video that maybe starts with someone else's video and then cuts over to your commentary, or even what they call like a duet, where I can take someone else's video and then do a side-by-side where I'm on this side and the video I'm duetting with is on this side. So with music, what people will do, for example, is, maybe I'm a piano player and I create a video and I say, hey, duet this, and I play a song, and then a singer takes my video, they duet with me, and they sing something that they created along with my sort of piano chords that I played, that I said, hey, duet with this. And maybe 100 different singers do that, or 10 singers and 10 saxophone players. And then someone takes that and they duet on top of that. And now all of a sudden you have this whole band that was just created because one person said, hey, build on top of this initial track that I'm doing. And the tools that they have to do that are really what helps that kind of new way of creating content come forward. And there's interoperability on TikTok goes very, very deep.
Wow.
And I think that that's why they've had so much success. It's not because, of course, like every social media is trying to get your attention, but why has TikTok been more successful than other social medias who have all the same perverse incentives? It's not because they're a Chinese company that like is more evil than everybody else. I don't. That's definitely not why. I don't believe that for a second. The reason why is just because they provided better tools that help people create better content and do so in this very bottom up fashion where you can look at TikTok next to like, do you ever hear of Quibi?
No, Quibi? Maybe I've seen the logo. Is it for writing?
Quibi was also a short form mobile first video platform.
Hmm.
But they took a very different approach. Instead of providing tools that enabled small creators to create their own content and kind of build content by collaborating with one another, instead they tried to create sort of like Netflix, but for mobile, and where the video, each episode was only 2 or 5 or 10 minutes instead of 30 minutes.
Hmm.
They raised billions of dollars. They spent it all on high budget content. They hired the biggest celebrities um, to create content for their platform, and they flopped within 6 months and
Hmm.
totally failed. So I look at TikTok as an example of, if you give small creators tools to work together, what you get is a lot better than if you just give like a handful of sort of elite creators lots of money to do
Hmm.
things on their own. And that, I guess, is something that we're trying to emulate at Asset Layer. Is basically,
Pardon me. Mhm.
can a game like DuroDogs become better than Fortnite?
So this is a traditional Chinese knot.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so this was a gift on my college graduation from a Chinese student that I knew. And this this knot, it symbolizes that interoperability. It's all the people that make it funny.
Right.
Like all the rock stars. I'm not even sure if that's his right name, but it's a man that does voiceovers of other people's clips of their pets. And it's hilarious. He makes a whole skit of what the dog is thinking and saying. And it's so entertaining. So I see what you mean about the duet. Now, is that duet feature in YouTube or is that solely on TikTok?
I think you can do it on YouTube, but it's not the thing to do. It's not like all the tools on YouTube are pointing you towards do content like that.
Hmm.
Whereas on TikTok, it very much is, the whole platform is sort of pointing you to build content that either uses the same music as other people's content, or build content that actually takes clips from videos from other people's content, or build content that does like a side by side duet.
Right. I'll have to look at TikTok. I did join it, but I don't think I looked at it or downloaded the app. So I think I'll be more open minded and explore. My thinking of why it's dangerous is because of what it does to human consciousness. The fact
Yeah,
that it is the swipe, 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 and the whole chemical reactions occurring in the brain, all of that I feel is dangerous. That's why I I call it dangerous. Is really because of that action.
I absolutely see that, and I think that it's clearly possible, not only possible, it's clearly happening that we have content that's too engaging is maybe the wrong word, but stimulative.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there's lenses through which you can look at this as a huge business success, and then maybe more useful lenses to analyze, some kind of trend or technology. It's, it it's a complex part of the world we live in where I think there's a lot of people who want to believe that the commercial opportunity is always going to align with what's best for the world if you only do it the right way. And I see that mentality in the Bitcoin space where they look at, you know, products that are very successful in the world, like a Twitter, for example. Well, Twitter's obviously, let's just call it a successful product because it just makes the conversation easier.
Exactly. All the news and
yeah.
rocket.
And they say, well, look at like all the problems with ads and how that makes the conversation all toxic and yada yada yada, division. And I'm sure there's an element of truth to that. But I think that you also have to just recognize that, you know, humans, the things that we want, the choices we make, we're very fallible. We make the wrong choice all the time. You know, we end up leading into wars and all kinds of things just because we're flawed. And if you look at Bitcoin as the savior, and that Bitcoin is like, well, Bitcoin is going to purify and sanctify social media, and it's going to be perfect. And if only you were using Bitcoin more, or like the degree to which you're using Bitcoin is the degree to which like you are holy and divine, and the degree to which your product doesn't use Bitcoin, you're just part of the problem, and you're perpetuating everything that's bad in the world. It's a ridiculous mindset. It's something I totally reject. And I also think that it's very challenging to try and save the world through your business. I think that's what people want to have in today's environment. And it's not just Bitcoin. It's like everyone is trying to save the world with their business. So it's like, how can I save the world and get rich at the same time? It's a very selfish, very hubristic mindset to have about how you're going to spend. I don't even know if hubristic is a word for what it's worth, but
could be naive. Naivety.
Well, I just think that whether it's naive or just overly optimistic, maybe those are the same thing. You know, I just think it's very hard it's a hard thing to do, to like save the world and make a lot of money at the same time. And I think often you might be better off trying to do one or the other, or do both, but do them separately.
And specialize.
Not every product has to both be, you know, $1 trillion idea that also like, you know, saves the world from itself. And I'm not saying that it's a bad ambition or that Bitcoin can't make the world better and also be a commercial opportunity at the same time. I absolutely believe that. I guess I just think that people take it too far, both, you know, in Bitcoin and just in kind of our entrepreneurial environment in general. So I don't want to say that like Asset Layer, we don't care about making the world a better place. We do. I don't want to say that we don't care about making money. We do. But I think we just have to be have realistic expectations about the degree to which you're going to be able to do both always, and in the way that in a perfect world you'd be able to.
Right. And it's called to mind, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So maybe you have these high ideals, and that is always a good thing. But then you can also look on the other side and say, hey, is this also risky? If I think of Walmart, I used to be so opposed to Walmart, and now I love it. I love it so much. There are things that are good and bad everywhere, right? In every place. And so I guess what I'm chiming in here is that the individual who's involved in the arena of the business or of the world can do the best they can every day and always challenge themselves to learn and grow. and to keep their target focused on that ideal, that vision, and to be open minded enough to learn and adapt to really reach the target, and to also not tell everybody else how to reach heaven, which is kind of hypocritical based on the other quote, if you think about it. But anyway, it's okay.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
you there's a lot of con there's a lot of very paradoxical elements of life.
Yes.
Um,
One thing from your article that I feel is a segue here is the fact that the South Korean experiment or the trials using Ethereum failed. And in BSV, we may say BSV blockchain is the one and only protocol that is functional at scale for the world. So for these folks to use anything based on Ethereum is ridiculous. They're wasting their time. Now, is that not the same as trying to save the world to say that?
um, I do think that I wholeheartedly feel that it would be better for the world if people stopped wasting time and energy trying to make Ethereum work and used Bitcoin instead. I
Okay,
definitely,
point.
I definitely feel that way. Um, of course, like a central bank digital currency, maybe that's not a good thing, and so maybe it's better that they're wasting their time on Ethereum. But I don't worry too much about that kind of judgment, just because the way I see it, that type of thing is an inevitability, and so it's it's just not my role, I think, to be someone who tries to change what is clearly like a much bigger force that's happening in the world, of trying to steer government issued currency towards the direction of being, digitally issued. I mean, it already is sort of, people have already talked about the CBDC thing plenty.
Mhm.
Anyway, all I would say, though, just to try and maybe add something more interesting to the
Mhm.
conversation, is I think I think we just have to look in the mirror a little bit and look at kind of, we have these like theories and ideas about why Bitcoin is a much better choice uh, than anything else that's been proposed from a blockchain standpoint. And I definitely have shared the reasons why I think that, and my actions very much, I think, support my conviction that that is true.
Mhm.
But if I also take myself out of, the things I know, and I just try and put myself in a position where I am evaluating the blockchain landscape,
Mhm.
and where I am coming in without knowing that much, which almost no one knows very much about what we're doing. It's not obvious that that BSV is like a good choice at all. In fact, by most of the ways with which people analyze these things or evaluate these things, Bitcoin SV looks like a very poor choice. Um,
Why is that?
because everyone hates it.
Okay.
I mean,
Who's everyone?
it's an exaggeration. Uh,
Yeah.
it's Yeah, it's not a technology that has a good reputation. It's
Mhm.
not a technology that gets favorable coverage from what are considered to be authoritative sources. Obviously, I don't think those sources are very well informed or that they're doing great journalism.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of the criticisms of Bitcoin SV are ill-founded or uh, created with perverse incentives. But regardless, we can't expect that people are just going to figure it out, because, or that just, it's sort of unrealistic. And I think that the last 5 years shows that. Some people will figure it out, but we need a different way of reaching the goals that we want to reach with Bitcoin. And so I think if we're expecting people are going to sort of make a choice between I'm South Korea, should I use Bitcoin SV, should I use Ethereum? I think it's unrealistic to expect that that's going to be the way that Bitcoin is successful. And so there has to be a different approach.
And what is the right approach?
I think DuroDogs is the right approach.
Right. Demonstrate, use, do. Right. I feel a little bit encouraged by what you're saying, because I think I took it more personally that all of my friends and family and acquaintances that I've ever met have not really been very engaged at all in BSV blockchain. And I do try my best to reach out to them. And I think, why don't they trust me? I'm a trustworthy person. I have integrity. And I've demonstrated that over years and years and years, all my life. So why would they go to the authoritative soapboxes when they could just go to their cousin or they could go to their friend, and then they don't, and they go to authoritative sources or even to scammers? I feel like people that I've talked to when I mention Bitcoin over the years, they really are hooked. They're hooked on the scammer concept of, oh yeah, should I buy it? Is it going to go up? Oh, kind of like a lottery ticket. Oh, should I buy it? The Powerball's at such and such a number.
Yeah. I mean, I think that we come from a culture that believes that discourse yields truth. I don't believe that. So the way I see it, the way you get truth and you get what works is not by talking about it. It's by failing and running into things that don't work again and again until finally someone figures out what actually does work. And then everyone realizes, oh, I guess all this crap we were talking about is irrelevant and this is just what works now. So yeah, I mean, the crypto world is very we're at the talking stage largely. Most people aren't using things or necessarily even being confronted with what does or doesn't work. They're just talking about things, getting excited about it, and then making purchases that, or they're speculating. And so I just don't think that that's a very good way of getting to the bottom of things or getting to the truth of the matter. I think what will happen is that everyone that's trying to use Ethereum will basically fail. And then eventually, whether it's BSV or something else that works, someone will make something that just in retrospect will be like, oh, it was so obvious that like this is the way to do it. We haven't had that yet, and we might never have it. I wouldn't rule that out, but I'm doing my best to see if we can help expedite things.
Yes. And I think you've answered my question, but what should we all do in BSV? Myself or others that are here interested, wanting to do our best?
I really don't know. I know what I have a strong sense of what I should be doing. I think there's a lot of different ways to contribute. I do think that there is value to talking about things. Like if people weren't talking about Bitcoin, I would have never found out about what was happening here. So I'm I don't want to say that my lack of faith in discourse on a macro scale means that discourse can't be extremely positive on a micro scale. But yeah, I guess what I would say is I think that being successful is a very subjective but also multidimensional endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you already know about BSV and you have a lot of knowledge about what it is, why it works, how to apply it, how to use it, then probably the best thing to do is just focus on improving your skills in other areas, like becoming a better engineer or becoming a better marketer. Becoming a better fundraiser is a big one. It's very hard to do things without capital for most people because most people don't have very much of their own capital. And so they have to have, a full-time job, which means that they're working with relatively little time in the day to be able to try and do something that's really, really hard. So that's a skill that I think probably, a lot of people in BSV, if they could get that skill and they could become a great fundraiser, then they would be able to apply that in conjunction with their understanding of BSV and be on a strong path towards having success.
Thank you. Yes, that's a really good point. I like it. So, hear that, folks in the audience? We have our skills to build and persistence. So, like I always say, nothing takes the place of persistence. And you were referencing, I believe, the concept of the light bulb. So you go and you do and you apply and you build and then you see it doesn't work and then you build what does work. And I think that persistence is very important. People will say, "Oh no, you need to know when to quit." Yes, that's fine, but it's that grit, that will to persevere that does see it through to the manifestation.
Yeah, I mean, knowing when to quit is really great for surviving. If you want to do something really, really hard and unusual, you're probably better off not knowing how to quit or when to quit. There's a good chance that you'll just not survive and you'll waste your whole life. But, if you end up getting lucky and you strike gold well past where you should have quit, then we need people like that as well. So I don't recommend it. It's not a recommendation at all.
That's beautiful. I love it. And I know we've gone over our time point, but I wanted to also ask, you are the championship high stakes poker player.
Well, I'm not a champion. There's
You were professional. You played professionally.
I was a professional and I was very good. So I don't want to underplay my achievement, but there's definitely some amazing poker players who would absolutely smack me around if I had the misfortune of ending up at the table with them.
Right. But you said luck. So even with someone with great strategy who knows the game, you still value chance. You still value luck.
Well, chance is an inevitability. Nothing is guaranteed. So poker is a good way to learn about that. Also, part of what goes into being a poker professional, a lot of the skills that you need, like with Bitcoin, are not necessarily being the very best possible poker player. Some people spend their career as a poker player trying to compete against the very best players in the world. But do you know who probably has made more money than any other poker player? Is Tobey Maguire, who played Spider-Man.
Right, yes.
He's an actor.
Yeah.
So have you heard about the movie Molly's Game?
No.
Molly's Game is about a woman who started a high stakes poker game in LA and then New York. It's a really interesting book and movie.
Ooh.
And in the movie, they kind of anonymize like who's who, but the most successful player in her game was Toby Maguire, who's probably made more money playing poker than anybody else, not because he's the best, he's good, he's not the best, but because he has, by virtue of being a celebrity, the ability to get into any game that he wants to. And so as a poker player, you're much better off being, the 10,000th best player in the world, but playing with really, really bad players for a lot of money, and being the fifth best player in the world and playing at a table with the first best person, the second best person, the third best person, the fourth best person, because then you're going to lose a lot of money. So I guess the lesson in BSV from that is, if you think of your BSV knowledge as your poker skill, it's great to have a lot of poker skill, but if you don't find the right game to play in, you're going to lose money instead of making money. And at the end of the day, poker is a game about making money. It's not a game about just like being the best.
Brilliant. I love it. Thank you. This is a wisdom broadcast with Jackson.
Wisdom, yeah. Don't chew on it. Don't take it to the bank.
Well, you know what? I'm going to. Okay. Thank you.
All right.
And it's such an honor to have you here, and such fun to speak with you, Jackson. And how can folks follow you?
Well, I'm spending a lot more time on TikTok than Twitter. So
really? What's your handle?
I don't even know what my TikTok handle is because I'm not a content creator. I'm solely a consumer.
Ooh.
I get a lot of videos about gardening, cooking, exercising. Very, very positive place to spend your time compared to Twitter. That being said, if you want to follow me or connect with me, TikTok is not the place. You probably are going to have a lot more luck on Twitter. My handle is at Jackson Laskey. You can also follow us at Asset Layer, at DuroDogs, and play the game. Check out our product. Check us out. We're doing some cool stuff. It's worth your time.
Definitely. And I like to follow who you follow. I've noticed you have a wide breadth of folks in the industry and beyond that you do pay attention to and you learn from. So that's another way that you're a leader, is that you inspire me to pay attention to more folks outside of the fold.
I just let the algorithm, tell me what to think. So.
What? Oh no. Well, welcome to the open mic night on February 2nd. We hope to hear you play some music. And thank you so much for your time, Jackson.
Thanks for having me, Rory.
It's my pleasure. And then everyone watching, please do like and subscribe. Oh, I need to remember this. Okay, subscribe and like. Okay,
nice.
Be in the moment. And then also comment below. What do you think about everything that we discussed today? And welcome to Play DuroDogs, and send us your DuroDogs handle and hand cash so that we can swap and trade some really cool accessories together. So thank you.